Welcome to The Debate. Our discussion today centers on a fundamental claim made in modern language instruction material. That's intensive, active, solitary practice techniques like self-narration, speaking aloud, and using voice recorders are the essential and, crucially, sufficient means to achieve fluency, even without constant external immersion.
And that sufficiency, well, that's precisely what we need to challenge, isn't it? While I certainly accept these active methods are powerful tools for, let's say, foundational skill building, the central question is whether this reliance on internal and self-directed practice adequately prepares a learner for the complex, spontaneous, and often quite unpredictable demands of actual real-world communication.
Right? And I argue that these self-directed techniques provide the indispensable physical and cognitive foundation needed to transform passive knowledge into active, usable skill. They allow the learner to build crucial automaticity and muscle memory without that external pressure, making them, I believe, the most essential step on the journey to fluency.
I see that perspective, but I maintain that while they excel at building procedural mechanics like, say, clear pronunciation and grammatical accuracy, they fundamentally neglect the necessary adaptive memory needed for spontaneous, interactive exchange. They optimize for rehearsed output while frankly ignoring the cognitive load of rapid real-time input processing.
Okay, well, let's start with the techniques that address the physical nature of speaking then. The material is absolutely right to emphasize that fluency requires transforming passive reception into active engagement. Speaking aloud, whether that's reading text out loud or repeating audio, it's not just simple memorization. It exercises the mouth and tongue muscles, training the body, to make new sounds. This physical act, coupled with something like the transcript method, listen without text, read along, speak, listen again, it forces the integration of listening, reading, and active speaking in a really powerful contained unit. This whole process ensures the learner isn't just intellectually consuming English, but physically embodying it. And the voice recorder is critical here. It's framed as the ultimate tool because it empowers a student to internalize the feedback loop, allowing them to essentially become your own teacher and target mechanical weaknesses almost immediately.
I absolutely agree that turning passive input active is vital. And yeah, the transcript method is superb for linking sound to structure. I won't argue that. However, that entire environment, you have to admit, is a closed system. The input is fixed, and the output is, well, at best, a highly predictable response. I mean, consider the technique of answering questions out loud. While the examples they give encourage forming complete sentences like, "My favorite food is pizza. I like it because it has cheese and tomatoes," the learner is primarily practicing prefabricated output. This kind of rehearsal, it avoids the critical time pressure and the, frankly, extreme cognitive effort required to spontaneously generate original ideas and unexpected responses when the conversational input is truly unknown and continuous. You are training to perform a set of structures, not really adapt to a flowing conversation.
And similarly, listening techniques that focus on finding the answer to a specific question like, what will the temperature be tomorrow? Well, that's about information extraction. That is a discrete skill. It's fundamentally different from the constant, rapid processing and predictive engagement necessary in real-time dialogue, where you must anticipate, process, and immediately react to evolving input. These methods build confidence, yes, sure, but they avoid demanding real conversational agility.
Okay, I see the point you're making about the environment being controlled, but I'd argue that control is actually a strategic feature, not a failure. It manages the risk. Let's examine the crucial jump from repetition to original creation that the material advocates, the narrate your life technique. The material correctly identified this as one of the most powerful ways to start thinking in English and achieve automaticity. This moves practice beyond simple repetition and into true original sentence construction. When the learner describes their own actions, "I'm walking to the kitchen now, I'm going to make some coffee," they are forcing their brain to actively search for words and build original structures about their immediate personal reality, instantaneously. This constant daily creation of novel phrases primes the mental engine required to sustain a spontaneous dialogue later on.
That seems like quite a leap of faith, connecting the, let's be honest, low-stakes narration of concrete, mundane actions to the high-stakes cognitive demands of robust fluency. Describing putting carrots in a basket is simple language about simple, self-directed tasks. While it encourages word retrieval, sure, it requires minimal cognitive load. The real challenge of fluency isn't just retrieving the word for sofa or carrot. It's managing rapid concept retrieval, engaging in abstract debate, defending a complex position, or seamlessly managing topic shifts, all under the intense external pressure of another person waiting for your reply. Narrating your life might be a necessary start, I'll grant you that, but it risks creating fluency limited to a very concrete internal echo chamber.
I accept the echo chamber, perhaps, but that internal safety is the necessary precondition for eventual external exposure. You have to ensure that the core skill, the ability to generate a structurally sound original sentence instantly, is reliable before you expose it to the stress of live correction. If the learner can reliably formulate a complex thought about their immediate environment, they have built the foundational muscle memory required for, well, any conversation.
And that leads directly to what I see as a core flaw of the self-directed approach, its reliance on self-correction. The voice recorder is held up as the means to identify one's own weaknesses and common grammar mistakes. I struggle with that connection. How can a learner, who by definition lacks expertise, reliably identify subtle grammatical inaccuracies? Or maybe, more importantly, recognize that a sentence is technically correct, but sounds entirely unnatural or inappropriate in context. External, live feedback, whether it comes from a teacher or just a patient partner, that's what introduces the immediate stress and comprehension checks that really hone responsiveness. That interaction tests your ability to process immediate feedback and adjust your output in real time, developing the adaptive memory we talked about earlier. Reviewing a recording later, that simply develops procedural correction, kind of, at leisure.
That's a compelling argument, I'll give you that. But I would frame the voice recorder's purpose a bit differently. The goal isn't necessarily, or at least not only, to identify subtle stylistic unnaturalness. It's to conquer the fundamental physical and auditory hurdles first. The recorder facilitates essential auditory comparison. The student hears the native model, practices intonation and rhythm, records themselves, and then compares the complex speech acts they are generating. This active comparison, I think, is crucial for confidence building. The learner is proving to themselves that they can practice sentence formation and reliably construct complex structures, like providing reasons and extra details, that are structurally sound and clear. If they can reliably perform these tasks internally, they gain the confidence and the muscle memory needed for external conversation later. It serves as a necessary intermediate step before seeking that high-stakes external critique.
Okay, but we can find a similar cognitive disconnect when we look at the active reading technique suggested. I agree that methods like predicting based on the title, highlighting main ideas, writing notes as the material suggests are excellent ways to ensure the reader is an active searcher for information and achieves deep comprehension. No argument there.
Absolutely. This intellectual interaction builds robust cognitive readiness. Active reading, where you interact deeply with the text rather than just passively consuming words, it solidifies vocabulary and structure in a way that translates directly to better listening and speaking ability later. It ensures the brain is truly activated.
That's a strong case for depth, I agree, but have you considered the fundamental difference in pacing? Active reading allows the learner to proceed entirely at your own pace. You can pause, look up a word, reread a difficult sentence, write extensive margin notes if you want. Fluency, however, demands high-speed, real-time processing and immediate output. The cognitive demand of slow, deep, analytical comprehension is entirely different from the rapid, sort of mid-level comprehension required to keep up with a continuous, living conversation. If all your training involves the ability to stop and analyze, you haven't really prepared the brain for the forced continuity required for true interaction.
I view active reading more as training the brain's comprehension bandwidth
and its predictive capability. By deeply understanding complex texts, you are building the underlying schema necessary to handle rapid input later. This active process elevates the level of difficulty the brain can handle when it is forced to speed up in conversation. The learner is building a comprehensive library of structure and vocabulary that the brain can then rapidly deploy when pressed for time. Without that deep, deliberate foundation, speed just results in shallow misunderstanding.
But speed itself is a skill, isn't it? It's a skill that must be practiced spontaneously against real input that cannot be paused. If the learner cannot immediately process unknown information and maintain continuous comprehension, they will fall behind. Fluency requires not just deep understanding, but the agility to maintain continuity when the input is chaotic and simply cannot be stopped for analysis.
Ultimately, the principles of active practice across all skills, from listening with purpose to narrating life and recording speech, these are designed to achieve the physical and mental automaticity required for fluency, especially, I think, for those learning without daily immersion. These techniques provide the indispensable controlled environment necessary to build confidence and transform passive knowledge into usable active skill.
And while I accept that these techniques are necessary, fundamental steps for building confidence and initial mechanical skills, true fluency demands more than solitary practice. The learner absolutely must move beyond the safety of that controlled environment and eventually integrate techniques that involve the high cognitive pressure and uncertainty of spontaneous external input to truly master the skill of communication.
It is clear, then, that the challenge for any serious language learner is navigating this transition, how to leverage the immense power of internal, structured practice while successfully transitioning to the external, sometimes chaotic demands of real conversation.
Exactly. And recognizing that the journey requires both the precision built in solitary practice and the adaptive agility honed only in genuine interaction. There's still much to understand, I think, about achieving the correct balance between these two necessities.